Hey Zwifters, I'm Simon Schofield and this is the Zwiftcast. Delighted to be joined by the usual crew in a slightly different form, and we'll get to that in a moment, but my number one guy, yo dude, Nathan Guerra, how you doing?
Hey Simon, how are you? Doing well.
And Shane Miller, g'day mate.
G'day Simon, how's things?
They're good, and now I've got to be honest here, and it is Shane, of course it's Shane, but it's not real Shane. Well, it is real Shane, but it's pre-recorded Shane, because Shane is not in Australia. Shane is in Long Beach, California, which is, of course, the belly of the beast. You're at Zwift HQ, Shane, so why are you there and what are you doing?
I was invited over here by the friendly team at Zwift. I think they've seen what I'm up to with Zwift. I ride Zwift quite a bit and I talk about it quite a bit. So, look, they had a few things happening over here, and Mr. Steve Beckett had invited me over to talk about the Australian Tour Down Under events they're looking at holding, a bit of a community get-together, and also just to get me across a few of the things they're planning in the near future.
So I've got to ask you, Shane, it would be criminal if I didn't. You know, have you seen anything that we might find particularly interesting?
I've seen everything I've seen. Everyone will find interesting. I can guarantee you that. I tell you what, if you go back and listen to Eric's conversation with on the Zwiftcast 2 episodes ago or so, absolute gems hidden in there. So all good, all good.
Well, I'm not going to embarrass you by pushing you any further, but, you know, perhaps you're right. Perhaps the best way to see what's in Zwift's future is a really forensic examination of that very long interview with Eric, which did contain some things which are worth studying. I think that's true. Yeah, okay. Well, pre-recorded, Shane, I'm going to leave you there for a moment and go back to live Nathan, but we will be back to you later on in the show. So for now, thanks, but we'll see you in a bit. It's all a bit weird, this. It's all a bit weird, this. Okay, well, I'm sure Shane's having a ridiculously nice time in Long Beach. I see he's been posting from Disneyland today. I didn't think adults went to children's theme parks, Nathan, but is that me being miserable and British?
I don't usually go to theme parks personally, but it's a landmark though, I think, when you visit the US. So I think that has something to do with it. It's Disneyland. Disney came out of the US. I think it's a place to visit because of that landmark. But we do a lot of water slides and things like that up here, but
yeah, no, I don't mind water slides. It's giant-sized depictions of cartoon creatures that get me. But, you know,
I usually take my kids mountain biking, so I mean that's the thing we do. We're a little different though, maybe.
That's a lot healthier and a damn sight cheaper as well, I would think. But hey, listen, I know you have been continuing talking about theme parks. You've been continuing on the Zwift, the gigantic US Zwift North American Tour. Still having fun?
Oh yeah, we're having a blast. The main highlight is meeting Zwifters, especially in the Northern Hemisphere. It seemed like there were a lot of people. I would go up to each bike prior to the King of the Mountain, Queen of the Mountain challenges that we were doing on site during the Zwift Tour North America stops. And the common thing was I would say, hey, have you ever done Zwift before? And kind of give people a little bit of an update about, okay, here's what's going to be happening. And almost across the board, like everybody didn't need to be told what to do. They all were like, yeah, I Zwift. I'm level 17, level 25. And so it was really cool to meet a lot of real life Zwifters, a lot of people who hang out in the broadcasts. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, well, I helped organise an event in my hometown, and that was a great success as well. Lots of people coming from local bike clubs, and it was kind of about 50-50 experienced Zwifters, and the other 50% was maybe people who had heard of it and were curious but weren't particularly well informed. And anyway, the feedback on that event was very good, and people seemed to enjoy it, and I was kind of relieved when it was over, actually, because it was a bit stressful in parts. But anyway, that's organising events for you. And maybe the people behind World Bicycle Relief Day are experiencing a tiny bit of stress, because this is a huge event on Zwift. It's coming up this weekend. World Bicycle Relief is just a tremendous charity, and Zwifters are going to be able to get involved in this big marquee event in a really big way. So let's hear a bit more about that, and let's hear from Katie Bolling, the charity's development director, and I asked her to tell us exactly what it is that World Bicycle Relief does.
Much of what we do is raising money to send the bikes into the communities we serve. It costs $147 to get one of our bikes, a Buffalo bike, into one of our programs. And we reconnect students to schools, healthcare workers to clinics, and connect entrepreneurs and farmers, if you will, to better market access and jobs, viability, what have you.
What real difference do these bikes make? And I guess it's hard for us in the developed world to think how powerful bicycles might be and what difference they make to lives. Is there one story you could tell me that illustrates that?
Right now, we're doing a campaign. It's called The Way Forward, and it features students in a school in Kenya who have received bicycles to make their commute much easier. And you can watch the video at our homepage, which is worldbikesrelief.org. And this story really showcases what happens when girls receive bicycles. For first and foremost, I mean, of course, their commute time is cut in a quarter, I believe. But then there are so many other effects of the bicycles in the community. These girls are subject to a lot of danger to and from school, so it makes their commute more safe. And then you think about the time that you go back from really having this powerful tool, and you're able to do your chores before school and not maybe needing to wake up as early. You have more time for studying, playing with friends, of course. And, the whole community benefits from the bicycle. So I encourage people to go watch that video.
And I mean, it does actually increase attendance at schools, doesn't it? I mean, not only does it put the kids in a better place to get the benefit of education, but it means they go to school more often, I understand.
With a bicycle, a student's attendance increases up to 28% because of the bike. And not only does attendance increase, but performance and academic tests and results improve by 59%.
Yeah. It kind of makes you feel guilty, actually, when you're riding around on your, ridiculously lightweight, ridiculously expensive carbon fibre bike just for fun, to realise that bikes actually in other parts of the world have a much more fundamental place in people's lives and kind of a much more important place.
One of my favorite quotes from our founder, FK Day, is, the most powerful bike in the world is not on the course of the Tour de France. It's really in the hands of a mother trying to feed her family or a student trying to reach her education.
And those journeys are made on Buffalo bikes. They weigh 53 pounds. They're going to be available in Zwift on World Bicycle Relief Day. And although they're assembled locally, there's some serious expertise behind their design.
Our global headquarters are based in Chicago at the SRAM global headquarters. And if you go into a testing room, you might see a set of zip wheels next to the Buffalo bicycle, because the level of expertise that's going into ensuring that the end user in our programs has a voice in terms of the product and the quality the bicycle needs to withstand and some of that environment. It's really special to have the global bicycle industry kind of embrace our work.
So how can we help that work? Well, it couldn't be much more simple, really. We need to get on Zwift on our Buffalo bikes on World Bicycle Relief Day, which is December the 3rd, and we need to chalk up as many miles as possible. And if we hit a certain target, it's going to cost Trek, the bicycle manufacturer, a lot of money, because they're going to make a huge donation to the charity they've supported for a long time.
We have a challenge as a global Zwift community to ride 250,000 miles, which will unlock a $45,000 donation to the day's effort, which is pretty amazing. I think last year as a group, we cycled close to 125,000 miles. So doubling down is a good thing, because obviously we know the Zwift community has grown, and it's bringing people together for a great cause during a 24-hour period.
So how does that target stack up individually? Well, let's say there are 10,000 Zwifters taking part over 24 hours. Each would need to ride 25 miles, and of course several will ride many more miles. But if you want to contribute individually, 25 miles is not a bad target. And there are other ways that you can help on an individual basis. The best way to start is by registering at worldbicyclerelief.org.
By registering, you will be eligible to win some great door prizes, if you will. All Zwifters will have the chance to win some small prizes and be part of the big community. And then what we're asking people to do as part of your registration is to create a fundraising page and encouraging all Zwifters to raise funds to provide 2 bikes through World Bicycle Relief. Now, this goal is $294 US. And the greatest part is if you raise funds for 2 bikes, we're in a matching period where all donations are being matched dollar for dollar now through the end of the year. So your impact will immediately go twice as far. 2 bikes become 4 bikes.
One of the biggest teams and a huge presence in Zwift is supporting World Bicycle Relief. In fact, the team formerly known as Team Z, spelled DZI, has even changed its name and is now known as Team WBR. Kevin Connors is team principal.
It gels quite well with the Zwift community that people can say, hey, I can get a bike to Africa. And if I can get a bike to Africa, I can make someone 15 times more efficient in their transport. And given that Africans, at least the needy Africans, spend upwards of 40% of their time walking from one place to another, if you can get them a bicycle and they can be 15 times more efficient than they were before, walking that 4 or 4.5 hours a day, that leaves a lot of time for them to do other things, to spend time with their family, to cook a meal, to take on a little bit of education, to be a mentor to their children. So I think it's a pretty powerful theme that fits very well with Zwift.
It is a powerful theme and a brilliant cause, and one we can, as cyclists, perhaps all identify with. But World Bicycle Relief Day is also about having fun. Everyone's on Buffalo bikes, there's a special WBR kit, and there'll be celebrity and pro riders a go-go. It'll be a carnival atmosphere on the island, and Team WBR will be helping out.
There'll be another probably triple handful of us who are out there with the pros from WBR, the real pros from the Pro Peloton. There will be events every hour on the hour for the 24-hour period led by a pro. They'll be 50 minutes long, and I think what you will see is a number of Team WBR riders involved in those rides to try to use our expertise to help keep them organized, to try to pull people back into the group via what we call our DZI, what used to be our DZI keeper role, but trying to pull people back into the group, trying to help the group communicate and stay organized. So I think some of us will be involved from that perspective. And very importantly, the whole team will be involved from a fundraising perspective as well.
And that's what it's all about, Zwifters, raising money to get people on bikes in Africa and make a real difference to people's lives. But we can have lots of fun doing it. It was a huge success last year. I'm sure it's going to be a massive success this year. I'll be there. I hope you will be too. Nathan, this is just, well, to use that kind of cliche, it's win-win, isn't it? It's just a brilliant thing.
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely great. You get a ton of people riding for a charity. At the same time, you get a bunch of people all getting on their bikes and riding at a time of year that you might not always be riding, especially that long, if you're going to try and really put some miles in and really try and, encourage people to donate through your riding. And so it's definitely win-win. And then you've got all these Buffalo bikes that are being given away to people to actually help them on the ground in Africa with real needs, like absolutely real needs. And so I am all about the WBR and the event. I'm really looking forward to trying to help out as much as we can to hit that goal of 250,000 miles. Absolutely awesome. And I hope we kill it. I hope we double it this year.
Well, I'm going to get on to and stand by live, Nathan, because we're going to pre-recorded Shane to hear his thoughts on WBR.
Yeah, look, with the Zwift platform being global and it's what would you say, follow the sun. It's always time to ride somewhere in the world, be it at the start of the day, middle of the day, end of the day. It's just a 24 hours of people getting on for a charity, raising money, and also it's what Zwift usually does as well on a day-to-day basis. It forms friendships. I remember last year I was leading a few people out for the sprints while I was clocking up the Ks for WBR, and I still added those friends on the mobile app, and they still follow me. We still give ride-ons. It's just a great day, but for a great cause.
It's a stroke of genius, really. Interesting, I think, that the kind of at least one strand of the celebrity and pro-rider involvement is very nostalgic. Andy Hampsten and the 7-Eleven team. I mean, a lot of real diehard cycling fans will find that name particularly familiar, and I think particularly American cycling fans, because Hampsten was an absolute pioneer for American pro cycling, and still one of the most famous images in all of cycling is that great shot of him on Passo Gavia in the snow during the Giro. Do you think it's a good idea to hark back to cycling history?
Yeah, for sure. We've got a lot of new pros on at the moment, and current pros, which we ride with almost on a daily basis if you follow those guys. But to bring in the old school and to see them embracing the new technology as well, and to be able to ride with your past heroes, it's fantastic. I love it. And, there's always once a racer, always a racer. So you can guarantee if you're on their wheel, I'm sure they'll go a little harder, and they'll be watching. So if you ever want to chat to them and say, hey, maybe race to the next town sign, or let's race for that, I'm sure they'll be up for it too.
Okay, let's talk about the Worlds. This was the second event that was called the Worlds that's been held in recent weeks. It was another huge community organised event, and massive kudos to Tam Burns for all his phenomenal organisational efforts. Hundreds of riders took part in a team time trial, and it was pretty successful. Very successful, actually. Some riders, though, and only a few, it must be said, were wrongly routed by the event module, and it did cost some teams placings. Now, Zwift have released an update which I'm almost certain addresses this problem. However, before that, it was a known bug, and we do know that Zwift HQ have been working really hard to solve it. And I get the impression that they've been kind of as irritated by it as much as anyone who's got sent the wrong way on a group ride or a race. And to be fair to them, we do know that solving bugs like this is immensely difficult when the product is in production and running live, and we're getting more numbers than we've ever seen before. But the thing I wanted to raise with you, Nathan, was that I sensed a bit of a change in the way that Zwift dealt with this, and also a change in the reaction from the community. So the change that I think I saw in the way that Zwift deal with these things, which do irritate people, was that Eric John, who's often to be seen on the forums, kind of leapt onto Facebook at the very first available opportunity, and basically, big mea culpa, hands in the air, we're really, really, really sorry about this. We're really trying hard to fix it, but we do understand that it can upset and inconvenience people. And he was right on that, like really, really quickly. And that brings me on to the second thing, at the end of this rather lengthy monologue about this event, was that seemed to temper the reaction from the community, and particularly from the racers who'd been sent the wrong way, and other teams or other members of the teams who'd been affected by wrong routing. And I looked pretty hard, and I could see no negativity. I could see only understanding that Zwift were doing all that they possibly could to fix this really annoying bug. I think that's a big step forward, don't you?
I think it's huge to take the initiative. I think from Zwift causes a situation where people then can add to a conversation rather than creating a soapbox situation where I'm going to sound off my thing. You know what I mean? And so since there's already a place there in that forum to talk about it and to respond to an obvious attitude of humility rather than like, we've got it all figured out, and even silence, it doesn't help, you know? And so knowing that that attitude is in there and it's being worked on hard, people are very understanding of that, if they know that. And so I think that was a great initiative for them to take. And I hope to see, we've already seen a lot of that, but I mean, to jump on immediately also and know that Zwift is paying attention to these events and to these races and stuff is new ground, I think, for most of the community. It's no longer racing is niche, the group rides are niche. They're starting to have a different conversation with that and being more involved. And I think they're going to see a huge response like we're seeing right here from the community that really embraces the connection with Zwift on a deeper level.
Okay, Nathan. Well, let's leave live Nathan and go to pre-recorded Shane. I don't know how this is going to sound. I think it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's still the three of us kind of chatting about all matters Zwift. And Shane, in another part of the internet that we're familiar with, there's often talk, some of it jokey, some of it serious, about discounts. So should people get a discount if they're wrongly routed by Zwift in a big high-profile event?
This is a really interesting one. And I guess it's part of this new technology, a new frontier that we haven't really had to think about before. Look, I'd go back to my real-world experience in racing, and a number of times I've been turned the wrong way in a time trial, or something's happened on course that pretty much nullifies the race, or a crash has happened and something unfortunate. So I'll relate this to the real world, and in that case, usually we'll get a free race or we'll get our race entry refunded, but we don't get our license fee refunded. And our license fee here in Australia is quite expensive. It's near $400 Australian. So I think if Zwift, you're in a Zwift event and you do get inconvenience, I think you get the entry fee for that event refunded. How does that sound?
And that is how much exactly?
$0. But look, I think you might be right there. I mean, if you look at the Northern Classics, I don't know if it happened this year, but it certainly happened last year. You see pro cyclists held up by, of all things, a train going across a level crossing. And obviously they complain long and loud about that. But maybe those kinds of things are just what happens in cycling, and maybe these kinds of things are just what happen in Zwift racing at this stage of development. Yeah, it's a tough one. It really is. I can understand that in a perfect world, you sold a service and you expect a certain level of delivery and integrity of the system to stay upright and things like that. And I guess mix that with a cyclist who's at their FTP or spent a number of minutes over their FTP, and then they'll get on the keyboard and get angry. I'm one of those cyclists. I'll readily admit that. But I always do the whole, okay, give it 60 minutes. And in that time, have I calmed down? Have I cooled down? Okay. No, it's just pixel bikes. It's okay. It's just a game. And was it good training? Absolutely. It's always good training, no matter what happens. So, yeah, I can see people taking two sides of the fence on this one. But no, that's where I stand. I think even to be honest, $10 a month for unlimited kilometres and the amount of training I get about that for me is too cheap. If I could pay them double, I would. But yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty good value for the platform. But I totally understand if people do want a refund. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see where we go with that.
Well, welcome to the podcast to Nathan Stoltzner, who generated a really interesting debate on Facebook, and we'll get to that in a few moments. But first, we need some background. And even before we do that, I'm going to say, hey, Nathan.
Good morning, Simon.
I'm going to start with some questions all about numbers, because ultimately that's what your story is about. So I'm going to be really rude and start off by asking you, because it is pertinent, I'm going to ask you how much you weigh, Nathan.
I'm down to 292 pounds now.
Okay, and what were you before that?
309.
Wow, so you're a pretty big guy.
I am.
And are you relatively new to Zwift?
I am. I started about 3 weeks ago. I started cycling back in February.
Okay, and did you start cycling like lots of people do to just get into a bit better shape and lose a few pounds?
That's correct. That's what I did.
And it sounds like you're well on the way to it, which is going to be very inspiring for lots of people, because it's a tough thing to do, is lose weight, and it's even tough to keep it off. So first of all, I'd just like to say very good luck to you and congratulations for kind of starting the journey. Being a heavier guy can sometimes be a bit tough, and that has manifested itself in your time up. It was either Box Hill or Fox Hill. I can't remember which one it was. Which one was it?
It was Fox Hill.
And what's your time up there?
43 minutes.
That's a good old slog, isn't it, for quite a long time?
It is. I have to stop quite a few times, but I do make it eventually.
Well, that's really good to hear. Now, just to put that into context, I'm sure most Zwifters will know, but you know, the faster guys are going up that in maybe 6 or 8 minutes, and many people will get up it in 10 to 12. So you're taking probably 4 times longer than anybody else. And I know that has been slightly getting you down. Just tell me about those 40-minute climbs.
They're not pleasant. They're not fun. I try to keep my slider at 100% because I want it to be as realistic as possible. I feel like adjusting it kind of ruins the experience for me, because when I hit hills in real life, I want it to feel just like how I've been training on the game. And, you know, it's, I'll be honest, I think about quitting after about 5 minutes.
But you're doing this the hard way, Nathan. You've got the slider all the way up, and, you know, you're tackling those hills, which a lot of heavier guys would avoid completely. So, you know, again, I think an awful lot of Zwifters would say, really well done for doing that. So tell the listeners, in case they didn't see it on Facebook, what your dilemma is.
The dilemma was lowering my weight on the game to something more reasonable, because obviously we all know, it's no secret that cycling's geared towards people that weigh 150, 160 pounds versus, you know, the almost 300 pounds that I put in the game. Because, again, I'd like it to be as realistic as possible, because when I hit the road again in the summertime, I don't want to feel like I didn't gain any progress. So I did put some thought into lowering my weight down to about 150 just to make it a little bit more pleasant.
Yeah, and I think an awful lot of people would sympathise with that thought. An awful lot of people would. And you posted your dilemma on Facebook, and it generated quite a debate. What did you think about what people were saying?
You know, I found it interesting because it kind of seemed 50-50 that people were agreeing and disagreeing, kind of on a spectrum of yes, do it right now, to why would you do that to yourself? That's cheating and you should be ashamed for even thinking it.
What was your reaction to the people who said that you should lower your weight? How did that make you feel?
It was a dilemma, to be honest with you. I read every comment that was posted, believe it or not. There were almost 200 of them, if I remember correctly. And I really took it to heart, because one person posted something, of course I can't remember who, but essentially if you lower your weight on the game, that you're cheating yourself. I really took that to heart.
Did you? Did it upset you, or did it just make you think about the decision you had to make?
No, I wasn't upset at all, to be honest with you. Even some of the comments were quite crude, which is okay. I expected it when I posted a question on there.
Yeah. Well, I followed the debate, and I thought the majority of it was actually really good-natured. I think people kind of engaged with your dilemma, and I felt that an awful lot of people were really trying to help you. Did you get that sense?
I did. I would say, again, even though there were some comments that were of the opposite opinion of not lowering the weight, I felt like most of them were extremely helpful one way or another.
And we've got to find out, Nathan, because I'm not sure whether you did actually post it. And it kind of doesn't matter whether you did or not, because you're here now, so you'll be able to tell us. What did you eventually decide?
I did not lower my weight. I kept it the same.
I think I'm probably going to congratulate you on that, actually. I don't know if it's the right decision, but it's certainly a brave decision. How many times are you going to carry on tackling that hill?
As much as I have to be honest with you. I'm going to tackle it about once a week and use that as a benchmark to see how much faster I'm getting throughout the off season here.
Yeah, well, that's a really good way of doing it. What's your target?
On that hill, I'd say 10 minutes or so, the average.
Wow, that's going to be some significant improvement. How much weight are you hoping to lose?
I'm hoping to get down to about 200 is my healthy weight.
It's no easy road you're embarked on there, my friend, I have to tell you. And I think that's why all the people who were supportive were very, very supportive of you. And, come January, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of people in your position. What would you say to somebody who was wrestling with a similar dilemma?
I would tell them not to lower their weight and just be true to themselves. Keep the slider at 100 and do the best they can. If you have to stop up the hill, you can't make it, it's okay.
Well, listen, I think an awful lot of people are going to be rooting for you, and I think if people see you on those hills, they're going to be really shouting out to you to give you lots of support and encouragement. And I'd like to add my voice to that. I think you made a really good and brave decision, and thank you very much for coming on to talk to me about it.
Thank you for having me, Simon.
The arrival of iOS on Zwift is a big move, not least because it means that the AND Plus dongle becomes surplus. iOS will be Bluetooth only. In many ways, Bluetooth is better. I've used it on Zwift by hooking up my trainer via the mobile link, and it's faster to react and feels smoother. But smart trainers at present give the owner a choice between using Bluetooth and AND Plus. Well, all except one. The new generation of Kurt Kinetic trainers, a brand that, up to now at least, has inspired love and loyalty in its owners, has done a bold thing. It's dropped AND Plus and gone Bluetooth only. Here's Jason Overman from the company.
The vast majority of people are using any of the software now on a smartphone or tablet, and now that Zwift has also released their iOS app, that's an option for them. But if they're not, then we're able to use the Mobile Link app to be able to communicate with it. So we're able to achieve all of the connectivity we need with Bluetooth.
The decision is, to say the least, controversial. The company's belief, as Jason claims, that the vast majority of people use tablets or phones seems unsupported by evidence. And what's more, Kurt Kinetic has chosen not to go with open Bluetooth, but their own proprietary type of Bluetooth. Well, why does that matter? Zwifter and geek John Hampton is going to tell us. But first, well, you should know that John is, or was, a fan of the company.
I have a Kurt Kinetic Rock and Roll. I bought it like a week before I started using Zwift. It's extraordinarily well built and super reliable.
John wanted a new trainer for this winter, like many Zwifters, and he was, like many rock and roll owners, thinking of upgrading to the new generation. Then he saw the Bluetooth decision.
I was ready to go. If I could have pre-ordered one, I probably would have. ANT Plus is clearly the industry standard for cycling, but I could survive if it at least supported open Bluetooth standards, but it doesn't. So for me, what this really means as a consumer, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a software developer, I'm not a guy who builds trainers, but for me as a consumer, this means that Kurt Kinetic gets to decide which applications I'm allowed to use. And they could change that decision in the future. They say they're going to support Zwift and Trainer Road and applications like that, but maybe one day in the future, I want to use Trainer Road, for example, and Trainer Road and Kinetic decide not to continue building this API so they can continue to talk to each other.
John's point is that whilst the Bluetooth decision seemed curious, the proprietary Bluetooth decision is actually dangerous to him as a prospective buyer. That's because the ability of the trainer and, for example, Zwift, to communicate depends on Zwift developers ensuring that they write special code instead of standard code to talk to Kinetic. One day, for whatever reason, they may decide not to.
What I ended up buying, which was a Tax Genius, has ANT Plus FEC and Bluetooth Open, which means that the two major standards that every trainer on the market uses are supported by the trainer I bought, which means any serious indoor training application is going to support those profiles.
So that's one lost sale for Kurt Kinetic, and judging by the forums on geeky bike equipment sites, I'm looking at you, Raymaker, there may have been others. Kurt Kinetic have taken a pasting in public for this decision, but despite rumours they may reverse it, so far they haven't. So what are its merits? There must be some. Let's hear from Dwayne Gran, a keen Zwifter and loyal podcast listener. He contacted me to offer some real insight, and it's pretty good insight because he knows Kurt Kinetic well. Thanks to a local connection with a video company, Dwayne's wife appeared in the promo film for the new trainer. He got to ride a pre-production model, and he got to talk about the Bluetooth decision with some fairly senior chaps at Kurt Kinetic.
So I've ridden a lot of different trainers, but primarily the Compi trainer. And the first, sort of from the first pedal stroke on the Kinetic, I'd say it was really kind of a wow experience. The feel of it is remarkably good.
Well, so far so good, but little surprise. Kurt Kinetic have long had a great reputation for robust trainers with a terrific road feel. What about the Bluetooth thing?
I had some conversations with their marketing and development people, and I was pretty direct with them as well about this. What are they thinking? They're not being obstinate in any way. What they've actually done is that they've got a good deal of market research about this that they feel substantiates their view that the trajectory of Bluetooth-enabled devices is already much larger, and that the trajectory of growth is much larger in that way.
Well, okay, probably true, and Zwift on iOS will increase that tendency. But what about John's point, and one made by many others, that the closed Bluetooth system Kurt Kinetic has chosen is a threat to compatibility? Now, Dwayne is not a spokesman for the company, but he does know some stuff, and he's prepared to share it.
In private, they have received a lot of affirmation about what they're doing because it's a more modern approach towards having a protocol for Bluetooth control. But let me give a practical example of how this is not that people should not be having a lot of anxiety about this. Their developer shared with me that the primary developer, John Mayfield at Zwift, was given one of their trainers and the documentation about their protocol, and he was able to program, test, and finish the integration, as he explained, in about 2 hours. And I think that's a pretty easy ramp of development integration. If people are concerned that they're going to be on an island, unsupported, or that their stuff won't integrate with the Bluetooth that Kinetic is kind of pioneering, I don't think that that's very likely from what I've in the probing that I've done with them about it. And I did ask, sort of hard and firmly about this.
So it may well be the case that it's easy to work with, and it may even be better. My experience of Bluetooth on Zwift has certainly been positive. But why couldn't Kinetic leave the legacy technology and Plus on the trainer as people make the transition? It's not that dissimilar to the Apple decision on a headphone port, a parallel that's not escaped John Hampton, who knows both brands well.
It's the same line of thinking, isn't it? Apple thinks that wireless is the future, and they're probably right because they've always been right in the past. But there doesn't seem to be a good reason why I can't also still have my wired connection. Same with Kinetic. If they believe this Bluetooth closed is somehow the future, that's fine. But I can't for the life of me figure out why they can't also build in support for Bluetooth Open and ANT+. You could even put a disclaimer on the box that it's going to perform the best with Bluetooth closed, but we're building in these legacy technologies so that it continues to support literally everything.
The nub of the problem here may well be, as sometimes happens, a bit of a presentation mess-up. Kurt Kinetic maybe just didn't do a great job of explaining things, although they have been trying desperately to do so. The tsunami of criticism of the ANT Plus decision has trashed everything in its path. Dwayne Gran thinks this is what's happened.
Well, I think they got a little bit on the back foot initially with the presentation of the trainer and their technology. The discussion was a little bit more about why they didn't necessarily support ANT out at the onset, why they went a different direction with Bluetooth, and they got in, I think, to explaining so much from that standpoint that they sort of missed the opportunity to talk about the market research they've done and the innovations that they're trying to do.
Well, this has all been a bit geeky, a lot geeky actually, but I hope it's thrown some light on what seemed a crazy decision, and I think it will be of interest to Zwifters as we get used to a Bluetooth future, perhaps, and certainly Kurt Kinetic owners who are very attached to the many attributes of those trainers. John Hampton hasn't thrown his away or sold it, although he is enjoying his tax genius.
Yeah, I will miss it in some ways, and if this tax has the same problems that some of them have had, and it blows up in a million pieces, I might be back on it for a couple of weeks. But I'm hoping it's more reliable than that.
Okay, time to talk, as we often do on the Zwiftcast, about the racing scene, or more particularly, actually, spectating on racing. Very much your domain, Nathan, and I think you're pretty excited by the latest genius idea from the chaps at Zwift Power. So we'll talk about that in a second, but first of all, let's hear from Glenn Knight, who explains what this new innovation is. I'm very pleased to be joined by a friend of the podcast and a friend of all Zwifters, in fact, Glenn Knight, one of the main men, if not the main man, behind the phenomenally successful KISS race series. Hi, Glenn.
Hi, Simon.
Now, I've got you on because you tipped me off very kindly about an incredibly exciting development that is going to help massively, we think, with people watching races mainly. I mean, I think it will benefit the participants, but I think it's people watching races on the stream. So tell us what you clever dudes have developed as a kind of refinement to Zwift Power.
Well, it's Zwift on board, so it's kind of separate from Zwift Power, and it's myself and Johnny from Vision Cycling are currently working on it. I think Formula One onboard cameras for Formula One cars, but bringing that to Zwift. One of the things which viewers of Zwift races struggle with is the concept that there's actually somebody on a bike pedaling through the power, racing, chasing these pixels in front of them. They're not just sat there with a joystick, they're actually racing on their bike. So the idea is that Zwift on board will bring a webcam view of that racer in their pain cave with their avatar in front of them. So you'll be able to see them both side by side, but also, their view of the Zwift game.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it's going to do, I think from my understanding of it, it's going to do two things. I mean, one, it's going to bring a completely new dimension to watching Zwift races as a spectator. But for the guys like Nathan who commentate on it, I mean, one thing that can be extremely difficult is kind of scrolling through the rider groups to get to, say, the front of the B race or the front of the C race. I think this tool is going to make that so much simpler, isn't it?
Yeah, potentially. So we're hoping to recruit racers in each category. So you could, for example, pick up Rene from Team Experimental, who's currently working with us in category B. Just pick him up and you're there with Rene in his screen, looking through what he's seeing and the riders around him. You've even got the potential to add the audio feed so that you can go, right, now we're going to switch to Rene from Team Experimental, who's leading the pack with the Cat Bs. Rene, how's it going? How are you finding the race? I mean, obviously, if it's a long race, you can do that, but for the short, snappy ones, you're probably not going to want to talk to them, or they won't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
But you could also, once the race is finished, you could cut straight over for kind of team interviews, those sorts of things.
Once you see this, and I've seen some of your early tests, I mean, it does bring a completely different dimension to spectating. And as I said before, it can be a bit tricky to follow the action sometimes. So I think this is a really great development for people who are interested not only in racing but watching racing and interacting with the races. When's it going to go live, Glenn?
I think we've probably got a couple of weeks of testing and building our rider base up, and then we'll start seeing it being tested in stream, and then we'll launch it full blown in a KISS event at some point over the coming weeks, really.
So where will people find it? Just keep an eye basically on Nathan's streams and Johnny Noblet's streams and all the other streams that follow the races in the short term.
Ultimately, going forward, it will be part of Nathan's stream. There's a possibility that you could add sort of the ability to select your own rider from that stream as well.
Wow.
But that's probably step 2 or 3 from where we are now. So.
Yeah. Well, it sounds absolutely amazing, and certainly for the growing number of people who do watch Zwift races, I just think this would be a terrific development. And yet again, something that's been developed by the community on an entirely voluntary basis for the love of Zwift and Zwift racing. So I'm going to do what I always do when I speak to you, Glenn, which is to say, on behalf of the community, thank you very much for all the work you do. And I'm sure people will look forward to seeing how exciting this tool is and what a different view it brings to Zwift racing. Thank you very much, Glenn.
Thank you, Simon. We're really excited about it. So hopefully you guys will be.
I'm sure people will be. Lovely. Thanks, Glenn. So I think I understand this, Nathan. I mean, the best analogy was the one that Glenn used, which was like F1 onboard cameras on F1 cars, obviously give a much greater insight or a different insight into car racing. So being able to switch instantly to a racer in race, I think that's... Well, I'm going to ask you. You're the guy who knows. Is this going to be a transformative thing for spectating racing?
Yeah, once we get it where we want it. I mean, we're all about quality. We really want to have a high quality stream. But once we get it to that place and we vetted our riders, we know who they are, and, we get them to the place also for streaming. I mean, it took me a good 3 to 6 months and even beyond that to get my stream perfected to where I really wanted it for my own riding, for my own casting. So, but once we get them there, it's going to be absolutely awesome. You have me continually talking about and hyping up what the experience looks like for the rider all the time during their races. Now we can just see that live. You know what I mean? The picture's worth 1,000 words, and you're going to have that picture of them in the corner killing it while we're looking at their avatar with a great overlay. And I mean, Glenn and Johnny are doing a really great job getting this set up, and we're going to be doing some testing soon. I believe they can have I think it's going to be up to 50 riders or something. I mean, so anyways, right now, obviously we're not going to have that many to get go, but as we build this community of people who are going to be streaming, I see a lot that can happen with it. I mean, I'm starting to chat with Beam a little bit, the new Microsoft platform too, to maybe see how much integration can happen. That's, all this down the line stuff, but I'm super excited. And bringing the real life and connecting it to the digital world, that's what this is all about. And then highlighting that even more with both of those things right on screen from all over the world is it's just amazing. It's really amazing. And I just nothing but kudos to the guys over at KISS and Zwift Power, and now with Zwift on board, really doing a lot of work.
God, yeah. I mean, they deserve so much thanks and gratitude from the community, and it's good to see them getting some, actually. But do you think, let me ask a really simple question. I think, unless you're a very, very experienced racer and you spend a lot of time watching the streaming, it can be quite difficult to follow what's going on in the racing in more than one group at one time. Do you think this innovation is going to help that?
So... listening to the interview with Glenn a little bit, I'm not sure. And also looking at Zwift on board and what it's doing, what we're doing is we're getting a perspective of the racer themselves. So we'll be able to go to them and see their perspective, but it's going to be very individual. Unless while they're suffering, they're clicking around for us, but they're not the caster. They're not the person who is controlling the content. They're just there riding and giving us some content from their perspective. So I don't think it's going to solve what we need for broadcasting tools. And that is something we have thrown on the requests continually to Zwift, and that we really do need as far as broadcasting tools go. It's not going to change that need. I don't believe that it's going to make it easier for us to pop in with the C race or the D race or the B race or the A race to a very specific rider's perspective, but it will not give us an overview of what's happening in that race, because as a broadcaster, I need to be able to go, here's the lead group, here's the chase group, here is chase group B, C, D, and I need to have a lot of freedom around the different events, each A, B, C, and D event within an event. And so having those tools at my disposal would be very, very helpful and something that we're asking for. Zwift on Board is going to give us more of an individual experience of Zwift and show us what they're up to within the race.
Yeah, I get that. That's a very clear explanation, actually. So I think this is going to add a different dimension to spectating, but it's not the full set of broadcast tools that would make certainly your life easier and the experience of spectating just a little bit easier in terms of being able to provide full coverage of every group in the race. Is that about right?
Yeah, it'll add another dimension. You are completely correct there. It's another tool in the toolbox, but it's not a full race tool set. So yeah, it definitely adds it's another tool in the toolbox for broadcasting tools. It's going to add something absolutely amazing. Actually, probably one of the most important things would be the personal experience of the rider, what they're going through, seeing that live sweat, blood, and tears going on. Hopefully no blood, but you know what I mean? It's going to be awesome to see that. And right now we're seeing avatars that don't grimace and don't sweat. And so being able to see that real life expression, I think, is going to, really bring a real stamp actually on like, this is racing. Like these guys are throwing down real efforts,
Yeah. The human suffering involved in the average Zwift race will be clearly communicated on that. How far away from a set of broadcast tools do you think we are? I mean, I do know it's on Zwift's mind.
I believe it's on their mind. I think that there's other things hanging lower on the tree, though. I think that there's definitely quite a few other things that need to be done. I really have no idea. To be totally honest, I have no idea. I hope sooner than later, but at the same time, I mean, we have an iOS app that people are expecting. We have expansions people are wanting. I think that, I think that there's a lot of Devo that needs to happen. And I have an assumption. Well, here's the thing, though. Maybe I shouldn't assume that there's too much that needs to happen, because the original build, I would think, would have a lot of freedom in it. And I would think that the basic user build maybe has less freedom than the original build that John had. So maybe there's something out there that could be modified and quickly handed out. But I have a feeling that they're on all engines firing right now, in order to produce everything that's already promised and things that we don't even know about. So
yeah, and to be fair to them, that probably have a wider appeal to more users. Not to denigrate racing in any way, because I'm a huge fan of it. Okay, let's have a quick chat with another big figure in Zwift, and that's the Titanium Geek. And I asked him to come on briefly to talk to us about a IRL, in real life event that he's very closely involved in, that's happening next weekend in the UK. Hello, James.
Hello, Simon. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. So let's start with the basic one. What is ZwiftCon?
It's a big bash for everyone to get together and look at the stuff that's on our side of the laptops, the computers, when it comes to Zwift.
So what will people get if they attend?
Well, we're going to split it across the weekend. So Saturday is going to be focused to World Bike Relief. And we're basically asking people to come along and put some miles in on those days. We've got the World Bike Relief team coming up. They're going to bring along one of their Buffalo bikes, and we've got a series of challenges set during the day as well.
The other thing I think about ZwiftCon is it's going to give people the opportunity to try loads and loads of different trainers. You've got a full gamut there, have you not?
On Sunday, we've managed to get most of the big guys there. We've got Cyclops coming, and they've advised us the actual Magnus should be with myself, hopefully this week, to get a Titanium Geek review out beforehand. They're going to try and get us the Hammer. We've got great support from Elite and TAC, and we've also got Wahoo providing all of their kickers. So basically, if you're thinking about investing in one of the big name turbos, you really need to pop along to ZwiftCon so you can try it and compare them. That's one of the things a lot of people have difficulty with. You can't compare these turbos because of how shops have formal contracts and things like that.
James, we're a global audience, of course, for the podcast, but let's just remind people that this is in the UK. So in reality, we're appealing to UK listeners here. But whereabouts is it? It's in the Midlands, isn't it?
It's being hosted by Run and Ride at Cannock Chase, and they've got a massive sort of warehouse-type place that should be able to fit as many people in as we can realistically get.
Sounds great. And I mean, it's quite the fashion at the moment, these in real life meetups, I think. What do you think the benefits of them are?
I think it's great to actually meet people that we've seen and conversed online.
Yeah, no, it is great to put a face to those online identities, and it can sometimes be quite surprising how that works out. Excellent. Well, the very, very best of luck with it, and on the next podcast, we'll no doubt talk to you and find out how it went. Well done, James, and I hope it's a big success.
Take care, Simon. Thanks.
Okay, Nathan. Well, that's about that for another podcast. Any news you can tell us before we say goodbye to the listeners?
We are going to continue our team training camp, Vision Team Training Camp, again next week. Wednesday, we'll get going with that again. So that's happening live. Make sure to check out that event in the Zwift app or in game. Make sure to join that on Wednesdays. We do live training on the channels, as well as have a Discord that's open with live audio for coaching.
Yeah. So hang on. I want to catch up with you actually on how the last stride, or actually the first stride in that series went. I mean, these are live coached group rides with Vision Cycling and yourself. How did it go, the first one? Did you keep the group together?
We kept the group together very well, actually. Everybody listened real well. And having the live audio with me communicating to them made it so easy. There's no typing, people missing messages, having to look real closely. All that's gone. And I just communicate directly via audio. Everyone responds immediately to what I say. It's real obvious what's needed and not needed. I say, oh, so-and-so's here, so-and-so's here. Now we're all going to do this at this time, and everybody does it. And we did jumps for the first one, so it was just like sprint efforts in order to open up for the race that was happening the next day. And there was huge response. Everybody absolutely loved it. We saw a ton of response on the Facebook groups. So I think we had like 40 people show up the first time. I think we had up to 50 maybe for the second one. Jody Cundy jumped in on the second one, actually. It was great to have him. And, we actually did some openers last Wednesday for the Team Worlds. So that was very specific to get ready for Team Worlds. And I did some coaching about, all right, here's what you should do between now and Worlds. And it's just kind of it's not just the workout itself. It's also a time that you get to ask questions. Because if you have push to talk ready to go on the Discord app. So we have a Discord app that we use. You can download it on your phone, or you can download it on your PC. You can also open it in your browser, and you hook your mic up and your headphones up to it. And from there, as long as we make sure it's only push to talk. So there isn't a whole bunch of like noise in the background. Push to talk just means you push a button on your computer or on your phone in order to open up your mic to the Discord app so that we don't continually have background noise. And so, if you have that set up, you can ask me a question live at any time or interact with anyone in the group ride as well that are riding around you with their avatars out on Zwift. So it's working really, really well.
And I'm really interested in this, actually, because it's a bit of a glimpse of the future when Zwift introduce audio, which we know is coming relatively soon. How many people talked back to you and asked questions? And the reason I ask that is, if I'm pushing on Zwift, I have just enough breath available to get oxygen in and carbon dioxide out. I certainly don't have enough breath to ask people questions. Are other people just, do they have more breath available than I do? I mean, did you get questions back?
So the purpose of the ride is actually to sharpen very specific tools. I'm giving workouts that are really, really focused on some peak powers at different time zones. And so part of the Vision Training Camp is helping people not to just go to tempo zone all the time, to not to waste so much time actually, and actually be able to use their time to the highest efficiency as they possibly can. And so I'm giving the workouts I'm using are specifically designed so that we have very focused time followed by rest time. And so during the rest time is the time people are talking. And yeah, we had, I think, at least 10 people chatting back at me. Shane actually joined in on the first one, and he was chatting away. Of course, Shane's always chatting away, so he was very vocal during it. But yeah, we've definitely had people chatting back. I think people are still learning how to get their mic set up and how to get the push to talk. If you're going to join it, I really encourage, if you'd like to interact with people during the ride, don't be shy. That's another thing I feel that people are kind of shy. They are live. You are chatting live with me in front of other people that are on the beam.pro YouTube as well as Twitch. But outside of being shy and not having a setup, we have a lot of people actually talking back. So it's been great.
Yeah, I could see how that could work, actually. I mean, even me, I think, could frame a short question in kind of the bottom of zone 2. So
1.0 to 2.0, that's all we're doing during our rest times, really. It's pretty chill.
Yeah, sounds great. Okay, well, I hope people look out for those because they sound a really great experience. Nathan, thanks so much, as ever, for your time and your very well-informed and always positive contribution to the Zwiftcast. Thanks very much indeed. Look forward to talking to you next time. And this is Live Me saying goodbye and thank you to pre-recorded Shane.
No worries. Thank you, pre-recorded Simon with me, and live Nathan, who's probably listening right now, and to the... what would you call the audience? Listeners. Thank you, listeners.
And of course, dear listeners, by the time you hear this, we'll all be pre-recorded. None of us are live, but I think you know what I was trying to get at there. I was just being honest on who was being spoken to at what time. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Time for the usual little house announcement that I am, as ever, incredibly grateful and very thankful to Zwift for supporting the podcast, but just to remind you that even though we benefit from their support, they don't influence what we say in any way at all. WBR coming up. I hope to see lots of you out there on course for a really big event in Zwiftland. Until then, and during that time, ride on.